Okay, now we've talked a lot about skeletal muscle because we have so much skeletal muscle, and that's what everyone pays attention to, and that's what we talk about sports and athletes and running and weightlifting. That's all skeletal muscle. But now we need to talk about smooth muscle, right? Smooth muscle a little bit, yes? Okay. Remember, the smooth muscle is spindle shaped, right? The smooth muscle is spindle shaped, yes? Okay. Now, the smooth muscle, it's slow to contract, right? Okay. For skeletal muscle, you run a 100-yard dash, you need the muscles to go boom, 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 boom. Yes. When you're digesting your food, right? Smooth muscle is mainly the GI tract. Do you need to digest your food in 10 seconds? No, you don't. No. So smooth muscle contracts very slow. But smooth muscle, when it contracts, it can contract for hours at a time, right? For hours at a time, right? Skeletal muscle can't do that, okay? Smooth muscle, okay? It's spindle-shaped, essentially located nucleus. And remember we talked about the epimysium, the perimysium, and the endomysium? Well, it doesn't have that connective tissue sheath. It does have a little bit of the endomysium, right? Okay? Now, in our gut, we have muscles that are oriented this way, smooth muscle, and smooth muscle oriented this way, right? Longitudinal, right? And circular, right? And these longitudinal muscles, when they contract, right, they make our gut do this. Lengthen or shorten, right? And those circular muscles do this. Squeeze, 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 because they're a circle, right? And the circular muscles have more to do with pushing the food through our gut, okay? So we have layers, right? Remember a while back we talked about plywood. You got layers of wood going this way and layers of wood going that way, and they're very strong, but you got different layers, right? Okay. The longitudinal muscles dilate and shortens the muscle, and the circular muscles squeeze around the circumference, right? Now, peristalsis, P-E-R-I-S-T-A-L-A-S-I-S. Peristalsis, right? That's the movement of food through the gut. We have to squeeze that food as it goes through our gut, right? Okay? It's propulsive action. P-R-O-P-U-L-S-I-V-E, propulsive action, okay? Okay. It's not only the GI tract, in the rectum, the bladder, and also the uterus, right? And it's to expel the contents, right, of the uterus or the bladder or the feces, okay? Right? You felt smooth muscle before if you've ever had muscle cramps. Or ladies, at your time of the month, if you've ever had cramps then, smooth muscle, uterine cramps, right? Okay? Now, the somatic nervous system we talked about, soma means body. The somatic nervous system controls the skeletal muscle. But in here, it's not the somatic, it's the autonomic, A-U-T-O-N-O-M-I-C, right? We got, I think, one more chapter after this, and then we're going to talk a whole ton about the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system, though, in short, I call it the automatic nervous system, right? Do you have to think to make your heart beat? Do you have to think to make yourself breathe? No. All those things that are done automatically is autonomic, right? Autonomic means self-governing. My heart speeds up if I'm running. My heart slows down if I'm laying on the couch drinking a beer, right? Okay? Yes? So, the autonomic nervous system controls it, right? Now, you have a system of nerves kind of shaped like this, right? And they're called varicosities. Varicosities. Where else have we had that word? Did we talk about that word? Varicose veins, right? Varicose veins. An area in the vein gets real weak and it forms a big bubble, right? Yes, right? And varicose veins, some people have a lot of them, some people not so many, but anyway, from the same root, the varicosities, right? Okay. Now, autonomic nervous system, they don't have T-tubules. They have structures called calveoli, C-A-L-V-E-O-L-I, right? Not T-tubules. Right, and the calveoli holds the calcium. Calcium still gets things going, right? And pouches instead of T-tubules, right? Now, and instead of troponin, it's called calmodulin versus troponin. Remember, troponin is skeletal muscle, and calmodulin in smooth muscle, right? Yes. Now, let's talk a little bit too. I think we're going to mention this. Here's the brain. Here's the tummy and the GI tract. Yes. And the brain can send signals, right? Yes. To the GI tract, right? Yes. You ever walk through the mall and all of a sudden you smell that cinnamon? Oh man, your mouth starts watering, right? So the brain can, I want a cinnamon, right? No, it's evil. It's like heroin, right? But anyway, right? So that's a long reflex. That's a long reflex from my brain to my tummy, yes? But there's also short reflexes. And short reflexes means this. When I eat a bunch and my tummy gets stretched, guess what? My GI tract knows, all right, it's time to go to work. We need to start digesting this food. And it starts contracting and moving that food in the stomach back and forth, and then it's squeezed out into the intestines, right? Right? So those are short reflexes. They're like, hey, we don't need you to tell us what to do. We know what to do. We got food here, we're going to digest it, right? Brain, go back to doing your thing. Yes, leave us alone because we know what to do, right? So they can contract on their own with the short reflexes as opposed to the long ones from the brain. But if I see, have you ever looked at a picture of food and it's like, wow, that looks yummy. Man, right? Yes, that's a long reflex. But that stomach gets stretched from eating that Cinnabon. No, that's a short reflex, okay? Okay, now, there are two different types of smooth muscle. Okay, the most common type, two types. Okay, number one is unitary. Unitary, right? AKA visceral. What does viscer mean? It means organ, right? Viscer, organ. Visceral muscle, organs, right? Your GI tract, okay? This is the most common. This is the one where it's longitudinal and circular muscles, right? Yes. And it has spontaneous contractions, okay? spontaneous, spontaneous contractions, right? So what happens is that when that food gets pushed out of the stomach into the small intestine, yes, then it knows to go to work. It gets stretched a little bit and it knows, okay, it's time for us to work, right? Yes? And again, this is the autonomic nervous system, yes? And those muscle contractions, right? Remember, it's polarized, then it depolarized, then it goes back to being polarized, right? That can happen spontaneously in this muscle because, again, the short reflexes, it doesn't need the brain to tell it, hey, you better digest the food now. It knows there's food in there. I just got stretched. I know it's time to digest that food, right? Yes. And then there's also the multi-unit smooth muscle. Number two is multi-unit smooth muscle, right? And that multi-unit smooth muscle does not depolarize on its own. It needs a nerve to tell it what to do, okay? Okay, and this is the smooth muscle in large airways, right? Can you say asthma? And those airways get small when they should be big, right? Yes. Large arteries. Arteries are made out of smooth muscle. Yes. The erector pili, right? And also the eye. Yes. Your pupil, right? Gets real small or it gets real big. Yes. In order to see, to let a certain amount of light in, to see up close versus to see far away. Yes. Right? And that has to be very, very, very precise to let in the right amount of light. And those muscles, when they squeeze, will do this to the lens and it'll get fat, or they will do this and the lens will get skinny, right? That's called accommodation, right? So when I look up close, my lens is real fat. And when I look far away, it gets skinnier, yes? And what happens is when you get in your generally mid to late 40s, guess what? That lens doesn't do that anymore. And you got to wear these frickin' things, which I hate. But anyway, right? But what I'm saying is, this is for very, very precise motion and movement. And each one of those muscle cells can be innervated by itself, where this, there can be hundreds of nerves, hundreds of muscle cells innervated in the unitary. Okay? Doesn't have to be so respond to such stimuli. Okay? Right? Now, again, I want to mention the skeletal and the smooth and the nerve supply a little bit for just a second. Okay? Skeletal is the somatic, right? Somatic nervous system. And smooth muscle is the autonomic. Autonomic actually means self-governing. Autonomic nervous system, right? And again, the way I remember that is autonomic is like automatic. Yes? Okay. Now, real quickly, let's talk about 3 words and then we're done, okay? Number 1, atrophy. Right? Atrophy, right? Atrophy means to shrink in size, okay? Due to inactivity, right? Yes? As in, use it or lose it. Okay, let's talk about this. Yes? Many decades ago, they did some research and they took real stout college student guys, right? And they measured how big their arms were and how big their legs were. Yes? And then they had them lay in bed for 2 weeks. Not hard to get out, only just to go to the bathroom. That's it, right? Yes? And so what happened to their muscles?
They got smaller.
They shrunk. They got smaller, right? They atrophied. Yes? Right? They atrophied. Yes? What about this? What about this? If you're a weightlifter and maybe you can deadlift, how much do you deadlift, sir? Okay, just give me a number. Just, it doesn't matter.
I was going for 7.
425, okay? 475, okay, right? Okay, Mr. Albert can deadlift 475 pounds. But what happens if you quit going to the gym? What happens if you just lay on the couch for about 6 months and you don't go to the gym? And then you go to the gym. Are you going to deadlift 475 pounds?
Yeah.
No, your muscles are going to atrophy. They're going to shrivel up. right? Because that's what happens. If you don't continually stimulate those muscles, right, then what happens is they will get weaker, they will shrivel, they will atrophy, right? When my son was in the Marine Corps, I mean, that guy was jacked. I mean, he's still a good-sized man. You wouldn't want to mess with him, but he was jacked when he was in the Marine Corps because the Marine Corps is big on fitness and they're big on weightlifting. He was at 8th and I in Washington, D.C., and he'd be in there lifting weights, and the commandant of the Marine Corps, who was like 8 or 9 years older than me, is in there lifting weights. Right? Even though he's like almost 70 years old, he's still in there lifting weights. Right? Okay? So, atrophy. If you lay in bed, right? Yes? What about if you're used to, anyway, atrophy, the muscles shrink. If you don't use it, it's going to get weaker, 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 right? And if you go to the gym, you got to keep going to the gym, because if you quit going to the gym, in time, all your muscle gains go down, right? Yes, now, I lift more during the winter time when I can't do my aerobic outside, riding the bike, running, jumping, doing the jump rope, right? Yes, but my aerobic goes up in the summer, but my muscle strength probably goes a little bit down. But then come winter time, I'm more inside, and I'm doing the Bowflex more, and I'm probably doing more weight, right? My muscles atrophy, then I build them back up. Yes? Okay. So that's atrophy. Okay. What is the opposite of atrophy? Hypertrophy. Hypertrophy, right? Hyper above, right? What is hypertrophy? Increase in size, right? Yes? That's what all the bodybuilders want. They want those muscles to hypertrophy and look really big, right? Yes? They run around wearing the muscle shirts. See, look at me. All right? I go to the gym. I'm jacked, right? Yes? Okay, admit it. You're one of those guys. Come on, Albert. Yeah, sure. Right? Yes? Okay? So, hypertrophy is the opposite of atrophy. Yes? Hypertrophy, they get bigger. Yes? If I do certain things, certain muscles are going to get bigger depending on the exercise, right? They're going to hypertrophy. If I lay in bed, they're going to get skinnier, skinnier, skinnier. They're going to atrophy, right? Yes? Now, hypertrophy is increase in size, but I have the same amount of muscle cells, okay? Now, there's another word we need to learn. Hyper, P-E-R, plasia, hyperplasia, okay? Divide to get bigger, okay? Yes? Now, this is associated with cancer. That's a bad association. There's also a good association, right? If I develop a tumor and that tumor grows, what does it do? It exhibits hyperplasia, okay? The cells divide, and the tumor gets bigger, 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 bigger. That's hyperplasia, okay? So normally when we think hyperplasia, if you read that on a pathology report, that's a bad thing. That's not good, okay? But there is a normal situation, right? There is a normal situation, yes, where hyperplasia is fine, and that is girls, right, their uterus, right, when they go through puberty. When young ladies go through puberty, right, the cells of the uterus divide. Huh? Oh, by the way, do the same thing during pregnancy, yes? Right? When you're pregnant, your uterus gets bigger and thicker and stronger, right? Because it's got to squeeze to push that baby out, yes? So that is a normal situation where hyperplasia is fine, yes? Some people, ladies, oh, I'm never going to be skinny again like I was before I had the baby, right? Because that uterus is bigger than it was, thicker, before you had that baby. Pregnancy changes a woman's body, right? Yes? Right? It just does. Okay? So, again, hyperplasia. If it's a teenage girl going through puberty, if it's a woman getting pregnant, their uterus is getting thicker, that's fine, that's good, that's normal, right? But if it's a cancer cell, splitting, dividing, that's way bad. That's also hyperplasia, okay? But again, okay, hypertrophy, I lift, and those muscle cells that I already have get bigger. And when they get bigger, right? Yes. However, I'm not getting more muscle cells. They're just getting bigger. They're enlarging, right? In cancer, that hyperplasia, cancer tumors can grow very rapidly and get very big over a short amount of time, right? Over a short amount of time. Yes? So, I need you to get that. You need to know all these words, right? Atrophy, very easy, right? Gets shrinking up, shriveling up. Okay? Hypertrophy, bigger, bigger, bigger. Yes, weightlifter, hypertrophy. Yes? Okay? And then hyperplasia in the middle. Okay? Yes? Hyperplasia where you're getting more and more cells, and things are getting bigger, but it's more and more cells. And again, there's times when that's bad, there's times when that's totally normal. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes? Okay, not complicated. Okay, I need you to start thinking about very quickly what you're going to do for your project, who's going to be in your group. Again, 4 people in a group at the max. And I always have 1 or 2 that says, oh no, I want to do it by myself because I want to make an A, this and that. No, sorry, this is a group project. You have to learn. One of the things they want you to do is to learn how to work with other people. Always when you work in a group, some people work hard, some people are lazy. Isn't that right? Do you work with some lazy people and you're doing all the work? Or maybe you're the lazy person and the other people are doing all the work, right? Yes? So that's life, that's the way it goes. You have to learn how to work together in a group. Yes? That's the way it goes, group setting. Yes? My son works on a team of computer programmers. He doesn't like that. He says computer engineer. That I'm computer engineer. Okay, fine, whatever. Right? But have to learn how to work together. Yes? Something about physiology you got to measure. Muscle strength, heart rate, blood pressure, blood sugar. I love the blood sugar ones because I'm real interested in that because I'm a low carber and such. Okay? And I will show you, maybe tomorrow night, I will show you some examples of some projects that I liked. Yes? And again, you need to work hard on this and do a good project and get a really good grade because it's a good portion of your total grade, and it will help you if you didn't do so good on the test. Okay? And now, if you would like to know your test score, I don't have time to go through it, but if you come up here one by one, then I will show you how you did, okay, what kind of grade you made, okay? Some did good, some not so good. Yes, that's life. But you at least know what to expect now, right? Yes? I will say that was a very long one. I usually don't like them that long, but anyway, that was a long one. So I don't know what got into me. Stuff. Okay, so if you want to know, she's going to put them on the net. She's gonna put them on the film. But if you'll come up here, years ago I would have just passed them out. But I tell you what, let me call your name out if you want to. All right, Miss Madison.